Hey everybody, hey Ryan, don't forget to record the audio. I see it's not recording. How you guys doing today? Today's it's Wednesday, right? So I come in, I know you forgot, I could see it up there. The red light wasn't on. I come in this morning, Ryan comes in a little later, and I'm like, yeah, I was up late last night. He goes, oh, I can tell you look really tired. I'm like, wow, good job, Ryan. Good. That's how you quality control. He says, wow. Go ahead and put your ears on. I mean, put your mic on. You can tell the audience that yourself. Yeah, so I was up really late last night working on this snow video, which is coming together beautifully, but it's not quite done. It's really, really close. I know I wanted to release it yesterday, but it didn't happen. I need one more picture that I want to shoot, but I need the snow to come down again. It's supposed to snow today, so I'm going to hope that if by the time everything else is done, it isn't snowing, I can't get that last shot, I'll go without it. But I really wanted to insert one more shot in there. But the final, I still need to do a final color grade, which is the primary grade is done, do a little bit of a grade on top of that, and audio level balancing. And I think, oh yeah, and the titles, the end screen. I think that other than that, it's done. I'm really happy with it. It's cool. It came out really nice. It's 10 minutes, like exactly 10 minutes and 7 seconds or something. I really wanted to get it under 10 minutes, and I keep looking for places to shave a second here, a second there, but it may not come in at under 10 minutes. Which is just like one of those kind of YouTube things, right? Like you look at a video, you go, oh, it's under 10 minutes, I'll watch that. Oh, it's 10 minutes and 5 seconds. I can't possibly give up that much of my life. People are very dramatic on YouTube. That's how they do it, just in case you were wondering. Oh, anyway, so what's going on here in the show this morning? Oh, I forgot to put the clock on. I probably should do that thing. There it is. There you go. See? Told you. Feedback in the audio, Mr. or Miss Mailcare says. Ryan, what kind of feedback are you getting? Can you describe what you're getting? Right channel specifically? That's a bit curious. If it's right channel specifically, I can't even imagine because we're on a mono output here. But please do elaborate on what you are seeing, and perhaps we can isolate and figure it out. The Construction Podcast and Jason Papavaselio already have submitted questions, which is fantastic. Good, I love it. We'll be sure to address those questions in here. Ted Bowling says no audio issues there. Yeah, anybody else getting any audio issues? It may be on Mr. Mailcare's side. Miss Mailcare's, Mr. I'm assuming, because I have like a single female that watches this show. Jess, we love you. Mailcare says you hear my voice repeating in a lower volume in your right earphone. Other people say no audio issues. Check Mailcare for a second feed running, or just refresh the YouTube page. That might do it too. Sometimes you get weird anomalies off of the YouTube. I also got a little package here from Westcott we're going to open today. It's not part of the plan, but we're going to do it because it's here. This is something I requested because I want to play with. This is on loan, and I have a really neat idea of what I might be able to do with it. And if it doesn't work, then that's okay. I'll still get to share a really cool product. Everybody else says no audio issues. Excellent. Well, then, Mailcare must be on your end, I'm sorry to say. All right, where are we? We got a minute left. Like all this time to spare. So remember, this is an AMA. If you got a question, think of it, get it ready, write it down, put it on the screen, put it in the thing, put it in the chat. You know what to do. We'll get there. So, how y'all doing? Is it snowing where you are? Is it snowing here again? What does it say? It says it's cold outside, but it doesn't say that it's snowing. Let's see what it looks like up in Mount Ashland. We've got time to kill. Who wants to see what it looks like on Mount Ashland? I want to see what it looks like on Mount Ashland. Because Mount Ashland is beautiful. That's where we went up to shoot. Well, actually, we didn't go up to Mount Ashland. We went towards Mount Ashland, then over the hill, overlooking California. I think it'll be California that's in most of the shots of the training thing. It's going to be, ooh, it is brutal up on the mountain right now. Here, let's take a look at this. Brrr. That's what it looks like up on the mountain right now. That's not nice. That is not nice. We are not going up there today. And the summit cam, yeah, nope. I think we're not going up there. We are definitely not going. Give me the right camera back. There we go. Definitely not going up there today. Oh, and the thing stopped again. Honest, I need to find a better way to do my. Just gonna get rid of that thing. I need to find a better way to do my countdown because I don't know what it is. iCloud constantly like decides to not play the video that's on my iPad. I don't get it. Okay. SRO says, I don't judge a video by the length of the show. If it's a PhotoJoseph show, even if it's days of 8+ hour live shows I'm in. Well, thank you, SRO, a true fan. Okay, shall we do this? We're recording. Let's have a show, shall we? This looks brutal. I'm going to hide that for now because it's just not, we don't need that sitting there. Oh, I forgot to turn my backlights on. Hold on a second. God, that's just tragic. Give me a second here. I got to It makes a big difference. Look at the difference it makes. Turn this light bank on.
Like
boom,
I said,
boom,
everyone,
boom. Okay, all the lights just came on. Doesn't that look nicer? Little backlight on there, little halo-y lighter. See, look how much nicer that is. Oh, can't forget to turn that. That's one light bank that I don't have on my automatic clicky pushy button thing. It's a technical term, by the way. If you go into Amazon, you search for clicky pushy. Anyway, let's, should we have a show? Let's have a show. Today's show is an Ask Me Anything. AMA, what do you want to know? I don't know what I want to know. What do you want to know? Let's find out what we all want to know, shall we? Good morning and welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the first live thrice weekly show here on YouTube at youtube.com/PhotoJoseph. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. We go live. We talk about all kinds of fun photo and video and live streaming related things that basically if it's got a camera attached to it, it is fair game. Hey, if you're new to the show and you've never been here before, make sure you do that subscribe thing, hit the bell thing, hit the like, you know, the whole thing, subscribe, bell, like, subscribe, bell, like, subscribe. Anyway. Today's show is an Ask Me Anything, so you can ask me whatever you want, and I will do my best to make up an answer that sounds plausible. Sound fair? Let's do it. We're also going to do a quick little unboxing because I got a fun little thing from Westcott, my friends at FJ Westcott that I asked for because I have an idea of what I want to do with it. You know, we're going to start with this. Let's just start with this, get this thing out of the way so I don't forget. I have an idea of a particular shot setup that I want to do, and I thought, ooh, I know exactly what I need for that. I need what's in this box. And so I reached out to my friends at Westcott and I said, hey, I got this idea that I want to do. It's very specific, and not that this has to be used for that was loud, very specific thing, but that's what I'm going to use it for. And if it doesn't work, because I don't know if it's going to work, it's kind of an experimental thing. If it doesn't work, that's okay. I'll just use this for something else. Look, I got a packing return label. This is not like a regular unboxing because this is not in a shipping box, you know, a product box. This is just how they shipped it to me because it is a loaner unit. There we go. So this, my friends, oh yeah, this is so cool. This is one of those flex lights. These things are pretty sweet. I have no idea how this whole thing works. I'll figure that out later. But the idea here, excuse the Velcro sound. The idea here is that you have an LED panel with a lot of Velcro on it. Here we go. LED panel that is totally flexible. You can bend it and shape it in all different kinds of ways. And this is going to be so cool for what I want to do with it. Yeah. Oh, I totally hope this works. But look at that. It's an LED panel that you can flex, and you can do things like, apparently you can bend it backwards. I'm going to try not to break it. Yeah, there we go. You can bend it backwards, turn it into like a coiled loop this way, and for like putting in a China ball, you could put it around your face and whatever. Anyway, flex light, I'm stoked. I've been wanting to play with one of these things. They're super awesome. FJ Westcott obviously makes very good quality gear, so I'm excited to play with this thing and see what we get out of it. All right, so that, I just wanted to show that to you real quick. I think I'm going to have to do that within a couple of weeks because they want this thing back, apparently. Ooh, gross. So we'll be doing that hopefully within the next couple of weeks. All right, let's get that out of the way, and let's have a show. So again, this is an AMA, and Ask Me Anything. I've already seen some questions coming up in the comments here, or right about there, so let's just bring these up and see what people want to ask. If you've got a question, stick it in there. Make sure you put at PhotoJoseph in front of it, then I can see that you've got a question for me, and I will, again, do my best to address it. The Construction Podcast says, hello, PhotoJoseph. Regarding real estate interiors photography, which lens is best for photo and video for the GH5? Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, I do a small amount of real estate. I don't do a lot because I just don't. But I used to use the 7-14, right? You want that wide field of view, of course, for real estate stuff. Keep in mind that you can, if you don't have a wide enough lens, you can always stitch. You could always do a click, click, and then stitch it together. But real estate photography is not a place you make a lot of money, and so you're generally trying to get in and out of the job as quickly as you possibly can while obviously producing a quality result. And if you have to shoot panos, you'll click, click, then that's going to take twice as long, and then you have to edit that and post later. So you really want to avoid that. So you want to have a wide lens if you can. The 7-14 is what I always used, but now I've got the 8-18, so the Leica one. It is ever so slightly less wide because it's 8, so it's a 16mm equivalent versus a 14mm equivalent. That has not been a problem, but what I like about the Leica lens is there's less distortion around the edges. Now, I don't know if that's just because it's ever so slightly less wide or if it's more because it's a higher quality lens, but that Leica is a beautiful lens. It is also more expensive though. So given again that real estate is, unless you're doing like crazy tons of real estate work, it's not going to be the biggest moneymaker in the world. If that's the only thing you need that wide lens for, then I think you'd be perfectly fine getting the 7-14. You could even pick up a used one and save even more money. But if you're looking for the higher quality lens, then that 8-18 is stellar. You want the zoom for sure for real estate, because sometimes you just, you don't necessarily want such a wide view. So you do want to have that zoom. You don't want to have to be changing lenses all the time. And that range, that 7-14, 8-18, it's a very nice range. Works out really well. And that'll work great for photo, for stills or for video. So there you go. All right, Jason Papavaselilo. I think that Papavaselilo. I think that's right. Sorry if it's not. Okay, hey, can't wait for the show. Here we go. I was thinking of getting a glide cam for my GH5. Do I need to do anything on the settings for the image stabilization? Oh, interesting. Okay, so you're talking like a slider, I'm assuming. Slider, glide cam, could be motorized, could be manual. That's a great question. So you shouldn't actually need stabilization, first of all, because the slider will be very smooth. So you should be able to turn it off. And it's not the kind of, it's not like, you're going to have to go get a GH5S for this without the stabilization built in. Just turn off the stabilizer, you're going to be perfectly fine. If for whatever reason it's not being as smooth as you want it to be, although it should be with the IS turned off, you can turn the IS on, but you can set it so that it only does the side-to-side stabilization instead of the multi-axis. That will keep it from trying to compensate for an up and down movement that isn't happening, right? So if there's like an ever so slight movement, you may not want the camera to try and correct for that, and so you just set it to the side-to-side panning. So that's in the IS settings on the camera. Just dig into the menu settings, look at the IS settings, and you'll see basically it's a hand going side to side, or I think that's right, hand going side to side, or just like a hand shaking. Those are the two different options. So side to side is the one that you would want. But again, try turning it off. You probably just want it off for that. All right, next question. Let's see here. Where were we? T-Cipher. Had my G80 with the 1235 f2.8 for a month now. Awesome. And just came back from a great weekend in snowy Scotland with some brilliant photos. Oh, excellent. Very good to hear. Now I need to touch them up. What's an easy option for a complete noob to photo editing? Ooh, a complete noob to photo editing. Mac or PC, Teak? Let's see if you can get that answer in there real quick. Pardon me. While I'm waiting for you to tell me if you're on a Mac or PC, if you are on a Mac, then Photos is a great, easy thing to work with, right? You get it for free. Teak's on a PC. Okay, so let me wrap up on Photos, and then we'll move on to something else. But if you're on a Mac, you get Photos for free, so that's awesome. It is a very capable editor. It is certainly not the most powerful editor by any stretch of the imagination, but it is very capable, and if you're a newbie, then it is a great place to start because it is quite easy to use. In fact, what a clever segue. In fact, I am in the middle of what am I doing? Here we go. In the middle of a training series on Photos for my live training series. The next one coming up is called Memories. We just finished up one on Places, and People is before that, and this is like, what was that number? That's number 10 is happening next week. So I've got a whole long extensive training on Photos for macOS and iOS. You can see that and learn all about that at photoapps.expert. That's my website where I do all the software training. So that's great for Photos. Photos really nice and easy to use. Since you're on a PC, however, I would recommend using the new Lightroom CC. I've been playing with it a lot. I really like it. It's not, okay, so just if you're unfamiliar with the history here, you have Adobe, obviously everybody knows Adobe, Adobe Photoshop, and then Adobe Lightroom, and Adobe Lightroom is the big product. Adobe Lightroom was called Adobe Lightroom, and then it was called Adobe Lightroom CC, because Creative Cloud, and it connected to the Creative Cloud. It was kind of let's be honest, it was kind of a half-assed connection to the Creative Cloud, but it was connected to the Creative Cloud. And then the whole new version came out, which they very cleverly named Lightroom CC. Wait, what? So you had Lightroom CC, and then they came out with a new thing, they called it Lightroom CC. So the old thing is now called Lightroom Classic, which is honestly not the most brilliant marketing thing in the world, but nobody asked me. So Lightroom Classic is the old version, which is by far a more powerful, robust version of Lightroom. Lightroom CC, the new one, the cloud-based one, is a much more simplified version. It's more like Apple's Photos, but the promise is probably the wrong word, but the expectation is that Lightroom CC will eventually grow up to have everything that the Lightroom Classic does today. Lightroom Classic is insanely robust. There's a ton of features in there. Lightroom CC is quite light. However, if you are a beginner, then Lightroom CC is a great place to start, especially since you can expect that the software will grow over time, will grow with you, and I think that would be a tremendous place to start. It's a great time to start with Lightroom CC. It is subscription-based, so if you don't like the whole subscription thing, I don't know, I guess you've got Google Photos, that's some basic, and I'm not really that sure with other options on the PC, I'm sorry to say. But honestly, it's worth spending a little bit of money and having that. The other advantage of the Lightroom CC cloud-based thing is that your photos are immediately backed up to the cloud and accessible on all your devices. I have also done a whole complete training on Lightroom CC. Someone has contributed, oh, look at that, multiple people contributing money today. You guys are all beautiful. Let me bring this up here. Frederick Van Johnson, good morning and welcome, and thank you for that. And somebody else who redacted their message sent $1.99. I appreciate that. If you're wondering what the heck that is, it's the super chat. There's a little button at the bottom, there's a little dollar sign, it's a super chat. You can contribute money. I love it. Thank you guys, appreciate that. And it's a great way to submit your question if you have a question. Anyway, so the Lightroom CC thing, let me pull this up real quick. I'm going to go to my PhotoApps.expert site and show you how to find this stuff. Okay, so here is, go to the system. This is my website, photoapps.expert. If you go to the store, so up here on the top left, there's the type, all these buttons here. Click on the store, you can also click on the store up there. You'll see all the recent training. So this is, there's the photos training on there. If you scroll down a little bit, you'll find all the Lightroom CC. So you see, there wasn't a whole lot of them because Lightroom CC is pretty light, but it starts at 1301 and moves its way up to 1305, and you can get just those if you go up here to the app drop down and you go, see these are all the apps that I've done training on, it's kind of crazy. And you go for Adobe Lightroom CC, tap that, then it'll show you just the Adobe Lightroom CC stuff. And there's a link on here that'll help you find the right subscription for your Adobe CC account, which incidentally, I think if you use that link, you get an extra like month free or something, I don't remember. But anyway, so that's what I would recommend. If you're a PC user, that's where I would recommend that you go. Frederick, you had a question, and since you put in that super chat, we're going to hit your question right now. You said, oh, and Frederick says, or Joey Levin says, looks like super chat now works on iOS. Oh, excellent. Well, thank you, Joey Levin, for that. Let's bring that thing up here. Where'd it go? Here we go. That is super cool. Well, thank you guys. Man, you guys rock. Okay, but Frederick's question. Frederick said, do you have a favorite iOS photo editing app? That's kind of like asking to pick your favorite kid. Let me do this. I'll show you what is on my home screen, and that will give you an idea of my most used apps. So let's see here. Let's go over to this. Oh, it's not synced up yet. Let's just wait for that to sync up. There it goes. Here we go. So my most used apps are going to be Lightroom CC. You can see that one right there in the kind of middle-ish. I guess I can't really highlight that in any way, can I? Nope, not without doing that. Anyway, Lightroom CC, because I am using Lightroom CC, so I've got the Lightroom CC on here. It's very nice. Snapseed. I use Snapseed a lot. I really, really, really like Snapseed. So those are kind of my top go-to ones. Lightroom, obviously, if I'm doing a bigger thing and I've imported photos, I want to access photos that I've imported from my camera, I'm going to go into Lightroom CC to edit them. If I've just taken a picture on my phone, or maybe I've shot something on my Lumix camera and done a quick Wi-Fi transfer over and I just want to do a quick edit and get it out the door, it's probably going to go into Snapseed. Above Snapseed, you'll see there's a little photo folder, and in there you'll see Screw It, which I use all the time for doing perspective correction, distortion, straightening things. Visco at the bottom of that page, love Visco. I still really enjoy playing with that. And let's see what else is in here. They're not exactly in order. Oh, Prime, I use Prime quite a bit. In fact, I don't know how Prime got on that page. Let's move that over. I like Prime. Prime is cool. And is there anything else in here that I really actively use a lot? Polar I use a bit, not as much. Those are the biggies. Yeah. You have Visco and Prime for getting kind of really cool, very quick looks, but then Snapseed for doing any real editing. It's just, Snapseed rocks. It really, really, really does. And Joey again saying that Super Chat works on iOS. That is so cool. Thank you guys. Thank you, thank you. All right, let me scroll back up here to the previous questions that came up. And Daddy MCC says, how is the smell? Not sure what you mean. Saw another review on the Flex Light and they said it had a bad smell. Oh. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to see a first on the PhotoJoseph Photo Moment. You're going to watch me smell a light. It'll smell like anything. Maybe, you know, sometimes you get something that's freshly manufactured and it's got like a heavy plasticky smell. Maybe that's what they smelled. I don't know, but this one is used, right? Because this is a demo unit that goes out to reviewers and so on. So it is a well-loved unit. So I guess the fact that that doesn't smell, if all of them smell coming off the production line, that one does not, so that's a good thing. What an interesting question. No one's ever asked that before. How does your light smell? With its nose. Bada boom. Andrew Burns says, do you think the 35-100 Panasonic lens would be a good lens for landscape panos? Sure, why not? So what he's suggesting, actually, let me back up a little bit. I think a telephoto lens is a great option for landscapes, full stop. And I never really thought of that, thought of a landscape lens as a telephoto lens, until I was spending some time with my friend Sean Bagshaw, who you've seen here on the show before. You can search for his name. I have a really, I will link to it up here. I have a really cool interview video with him. It was probably over a year ago that we did this, but where he showed off his work, and the guy's just an insane landscape photographer. He's one of those photographers, you look at his work and you go, yeah, I'm not even gonna bother. I'm just, no, he's too good. He shoots a lot of his landscapes with a long lens, and it's quite an interesting change of perspective on how to shoot landscape. However, aside from that, if you want to have a big sweeping vista, you can still shoot that with a long lens and shoot a pano and then stitch them together. I have a demo thing that I did once. I don't remember where. I have no idea where this would be, so I don't know where to link it to. But doing a stitching, so an auto stitching in Lightroom or I don't remember, some other app, of a very large cityscape. I was at the top of this mountain in Tbilisi, Georgia, top of a castle, I think, actually, overlooking the city. And I shot something like 20 pictures. I shot them vertical with the long lens, and then down, just a huge number of them, and made this massive, like 120-something megapixel file, I think. Great way to do it. The software works so well. Lightroom, Photoshop does such a good job of stitching it together that you really don't see any seams, and you end up with this megapixel, mega gigapixel, whatever file. It's kind of awesome. So yeah, long lens for that is great. And the 35-100 f2.8 is the sharper of the 35-100s. There's a second lens, which I actually have right here. I'm using it on this camera. Now that let's see here, let's do the overhead close-up. This is the smaller, I don't think it's even in focus right now. This is the smaller, yeah, Ryan's yelling at me that it's out of focus, so we're gonna change camera angles. This is the 35-100 variable aperture, what is this thing? What is this? F4 to 5.6. Very, very small and look at how tiny this is. It's itty bitty. This is a great lens, not as sharp as the other one, as the 35-100 f2.8. Clearly smaller, lighter, and less expensive. So it's a great option, but if you can swing it, that f2.8 one is a very, very nice lens. So that's definitely the one that I would recommend. All righty, next up. Estro Digital, I didn't get a Twitter reply from Sean Robinson or Lumix the other day about the GX9. Is it the replacement for our favorite GX80, GX85? I believe, so I don't know if the GX85 is being taken off of, is no longer being manufactured, but what I do know about the GX9 is it basically is a combination of the best features of the GX80/85, that's the difference there is US versus European market, the GX80/85, and the GX8. It's kind of the best of those two brought together into one camera. That's the GX9. I don't know if it's meant to be a replacement or not. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that. But if you're shopping today for a camera that is a small, lightweight travel camera, I have not shot with the GX9 yet, but just looking at the specs of it, I am quite sure that the GX9 will be my new favorite. The GX85 has been my favorite small travel camera. I absolutely adore that camera. It's so small. I love how the LCD is a flip up instead of flip out, which makes it no good for selfie stuff, but brilliant for street photography because you can pop it up and hold it down. In fact, Ryan, will you grab it for me? It's sitting on the little table over there right outside the door. It's really, really nicely made. It feels great in your hands. It's very compact and lightweight, but not too lightweight. It's a great camera. I think it's still got, no, the 85. I think it might still be in the plastic bag. Oh, is it here? Here, it's, I got it. Sorry guys, it's actually right behind me. I thought, here we go. So I got it right here. It is in a plastic bag, and you're wondering why is that in a plastic bag? And to know why it's in a plastic bag, you're gonna have to watch my snow photography video, which I'm going to link to right here, even though right now that's not there, but it will be by the time most of you watch this, hopefully. Anyway, if something pops up when I do this, go watch that video, and you'll understand why this camera's in a plastic bag. But let's see if I can get this off here without making too much of a racket. I'm going to pull this thing apart. Let's not do that. Anyway, this is the flip-out LCD on the GX85, how it flips up this way. And let me get this camera. That lens off and shut the whole camera down. Let's get that back in place. And Where are we? Here we go. Focus, focus, focus. Maybe it'll focus. It'll try to focus. I'll think about focusing. Oh, did I somehow? Oh, I might have messed with this camera. Darn it. I was using this camera for something else, and I haven't reset everything. Okay, can I? I can't. Anyway, there it is. No close-up for you today, but that is the flip-up LCD as opposed to the flip-out. That's what's on the GX9. This looks really funny with the plastic thing on it, but there you go. So, love that camera. And I'm sure the GX9 will be a new travel camera favorite. Next question is, can you talk about the use of polarizing filters on mirrorless? Does it have the same effect as on a DSLR? Yes, it does. If you have already done a video on this, can you just refer me to it? I have not done a video. My audio just got real tinny, he says. What just happened? I have no idea what happened. I didn't change anything. I don't know. I don't know. It sounds the same to me in my ears. Okay, that was weird. Sorry, where was I? Okay, so I have not done a video on polarizers specifically. I do actually talk about polarizers in the snow video that I've already linked to up here, or will link to up there. I do talk about it a little bit, but yes, they do have the same effect. Mirrorless has no relation to how a polarizing filter works. It doesn't matter. It's still a camera. You could actually put a polarizing filter on your iPhone if you wanted to. Basically, what a polarizing filter does is by rotating there's two angles of. It would be a good show to do that, actually. I should do a whole show on explaining how polarization works. But you have two filters that have, call them lines, and not really lines, but kind of line up and they allow certain wavelengths through or not. And what you can end up doing is cutting out reflections. So if you've got a window, like a windshield of a car, you can see through the window or not see through the windshield, get the glare on or off of it using that filter. And also, it will do things like make your skies really rich and dark and blue and beautiful. So you'll see a sample of that in the snow video shortly. And I'll do a video. I'll add it to my list. I'll do a video on that eventually. No time soon, though. I got a bunch of stuff on the hopper coming up. All right, Ted Bowling, can you... Oh, you already did that. Marco Corzani says glide cam is not a slider. Oh, glide cam is not a slider. Oh, sorry. Now we came to that. What's glide cam? Okay, now I have to Google because I'm not sure what you mean. Glide cam. Let me see what you're talking about. Sorry, I don't... Oh, okay. Stabilizing. I'm thinking... sorry, I was thinking slider. You're talking about a stabilizer. That is what it's called, huh? That's the glide cam here. This is what he's talking about. This is glide cam. This is the bigger glide cam things. Okay, so for those, that is something where you would definitely want to experiment whether you are going to have IS turned on or off. Max Yuriev did a series of videos when the GH5 first came out, talking about stabilization and doing some tests with not a glide cam like that, but one of the handheld gimbals, and showing with the stabilization on or off. If I recall, the conclusion was that it worked fine together. You just got even more stabilization for doing things like walking or so on. It worked out really, really well. So I think it really comes down to experimenting and see what works. But in that case, I would leave the full stabilization on, not do the side-to-side one. And oh, and Teak Cypher has contributed as well. Thank you very much. You guys rock today. Frederick Van Johnson, are there any alternatives to the Panasonic image app for controlling the GH5 via your iPhone 10? There actually are. I have one that I bought a long time ago and never, ever used. Let me see if I can find, hello, unlock. Let me see if I can find that in here because I know that I have it, but like I said, I've never actually used it. No, it's not there. I might have actually scrolled past it since I've never used it when I was looking at my Photos apps. Yeah, I don't remember. If anybody else remembers in the chat, let me know. I know there is another app that works. It's supposed to work. Like I said, I have it. I don't think I've ever even launched it. I'm just looking through all my unsorted apps, see if I can find something in here. Field monitor? No, that's not it. Yeah, sorry, Frederick. I don't have the answer for you. But I'd be curious what you're looking for to do that the built-in or the Panasonic one doesn't do. The Panasonic one seems to work quite well. I mean, it's, you know, all these things are a little bit cumbersome to some degree, but it seems to work quite well for the things that I've needed to use it for. It's worked just fine. So curious what other type of features you are looking for. Alrighty, back into the comments here. Stastro says, just got my Ronin MX. Do you know much about these? I don't. I'm having trouble balancing the tilt. No matter what I do, I can't get it perfect. Sounds like it must be a stabilizer or a gimbal. Ronin MX. The obvious answer is no. Oh, I see. It's one of these guys. One of these these types. Those are the kind of the big boy ones. Those are funky. Oh, the DJI from, huh, cool. No, I don't. I don't have any experience with them at all, sorry. I've never used one, so I really don't know how to stabilize it or what you have to do. I know that the smaller handheld ones are getting easier and easier to stabilize, but for that one, I don't know, I'm sorry. Sorry, I don't have a good answer for you. Graham Gutt says, oops, wrong button. There we go. Graham Gutt says, hi from the UK. Have you done a video on the G9's high speed mode, specifically 180 frames per second? It says no autofocus is available, but mine did adjust focus while you were filming. Okay, so he's talking about variable frame rate, VFR mode, high speed shooting video mode. I have not done anything on that for the G9. I've done it for the GH5, and I will be doing more for the GH5S because it goes all the way up to 240 frames per second. I think that's right. But no, I haven't done anything specifically on the G9, but no, they do not autofocus. So if yours adjusted focus, then I don't know, your camera's possessed, or you bumped the focus ring, or you got a special build. I don't know, but I haven't done it at all on the G9, but on all these cameras, to my understanding, I mean, certainly on the GH5 and GH5S, there is no autofocus. If there's autofocus on the G9, then that is totally news to me. But no, I'm quite sure it's not. Interesting, interesting. He also says, is there a way to get manual exposure in that mode? Right, there's some limitations. Oh, yeah. No, the answer is no. I remember that now. Someone else had asked me about that before. The G9's VFR mode is a bit limited. It is limited to an automatic exposure. You can exposure compensate, so you can use the plus and minus exposure compensation to make the scene brighter or darker, but there is no full manual. If you want full manual VFR, you got to go to a GH5 or GH5S. Yep, there it is. All right, Funky Voodoo, great name. Funky Voodoo says, if you had to choose either the USB or SD card dongle for iPad Pro, which would it be and why? I've been wanting to ask you forever. I guess today's the day. Okay, USB or SD card dongle. So you're talking about the SD card dongle like this, or a USB version of this, which I have but not here, to connect USB devices. If you're going to just buy one, I mean, if your sole purpose is to get photos into your iPad, then this is by far an easier way. I haven't compared speed. I know that this is USB 3 on an iPad Pro. I don't know about the actual USB adapter, whether that gives you USB speeds. I certainly have never done a comparison of importing with this versus importing with a USB adapter and then a USB card reader. But that sounds way too cumbersome to me. Even if it added a little bit of speed, that sounds way too cumbersome. I would much rather just have this. If, however, you need to have other things to connect via USB to your iPad and you only want to buy one dongle, then clearly the USB one's the way to go. But I'm going to assume, check my laptop. Why? Okay, so, I see, for this, sorry guys, my backup has a tendency to kick on in the middle of the show for some stupid reason, which is, yep, it is, let's pause it, which tends to slow things down a little bit. Anyway, sorry, so if all you need is the ability to import pictures onto your iPad, then get the SD card reader, because it's great, it's handy, it always works, super reliable, it's fast, and on the Pro, like I said, you get USB 3 speeds. Okay, next up, let's see here. SR Digital says, do you bother to make sure your Lumix cameras are switched off before you change lenses? No, never. If left on, have you seen any issues? No. No, not at all. I never turn off the camera to switch lenses, not at all. So, no, easy question, easy answer. Don't bother. No need to. I don't see why you would. Okay. That's the list of the questions that's come up there. Let's give you guys another minute to throw up any other questions that people may have, but otherwise that'd be it. While you're thinking about other questions, let me just pull this thing up real quick. Remember, our show has a value for value model. That means if you have gained value from today's show, much like the lovely people who are using the Super Chat, you can contribute value back to me, value in the sense of dollars, because that's, you know, what it takes to run the show. So a few ways you can do it. There is that Super Chat, as you've seen here, which is now available on mobile, which is kind of cool. You can also go to Patreon and contribute via Patreon, or you can even do a monthly or a one-off contribution using PayPal. We have a large affiliate store, quite a large affiliate collection growing. And then, of course, you can also hire me directly. If you have a big project you're working on, you need some help setting up a live streaming studio or anything like that, consider hiring me directly. You can learn how to do all of these things at PhotoJoseph.com/support. So I would encourage you to please head to PhotoJoseph.com/support if you feel like you've gained value from today's show and look for a way to contribute value back. Ooh, more questions came up. Excellent. Let's see here. Sutter says, how do you use your Russian lenses? What are you shooting with them at all? So I don't use them on a regular basis, but I have used them. I did a short film, just basically chasing my kid around, but it was a lot of fun. We'll link to that up here. It was a film shot on the Russian lenses, but formatted specifically for the iPhone 10, so it was a whole iPhone 10 experiment thing. I loved it. It's, you know, those lenses are cool. They got a really cool look to them, so I enjoy playing with them. I got to do some more with them. I absolutely do. There's so many things to do, but yeah, they're great to play with. Andrew Burns says, have you done a show on cleaning the sensor on a Micro Four Thirds camera? No, I haven't done a show on it, but if you want to clean your sensor, then there are plenty of really nice little, they look like little mini brooms. It's just the width of your sensor with some, you know, soft end to it. They're disposable because you don't want to reuse these things. You definitely don't want to get one dirty and then put a dirty one on your sensor. But it's like a little thing. Let's just pretend this was it, because that's kind of the same shape, just slightly smaller. And you put a drop or 2 drops or something of liquid on there, and then just wipe the sensor. It's like one wipe, and then you flip it over, and you go second wipe, and that's it, done. I don't actually own any of that. It's one of those things that I'll be somewhere and someone goes, oh, I've got a sensor cleaner. I go, oh, okay, cool, thanks. And I wipe my sensor. But yeah, it's easy to do. You don't have to worry about scratching your sensor. I mean, you have to worry in the sense of don't, you know, take sand and put it on there. But it's a lot harder to scratch than you might think, because you're not actually cleaning the sensor. You're cleaning a layer of glass that's on top of the sensor. But still, you want to be very careful. You don't want to scratch it. Only use actual sensor cleaning equipment. Use one that is sized for your sensor, and that's about it. So easy to do. Gearsight says, got here late. Oh, well, welcome. Glad you're here. Should I expect a big improvement in video autofocus going from the G7 to the G9? That's a fair question. Yes, the G9 definitely has improved video autofocus. I think the G9, oh, actually, yes, dramatically, right? Because the G9, I don't know if it's the exact same autofocus system, but it is as good as the GH5 for autofocus in video. No jokes about how it's not the most perfect thing in the world, but yes, and that will be better than the G7. So yes, I think it's a fair assumption that it will be better. If you are unsure, remember, when it comes to buying any gear, if you're thinking about upgrading for a specific feature and you want to know, is it really that much better than what I have? Is it worth me buying this $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 camera to fix that one feature? Rent it. Rent the gear for a weekend, get out there and shoot with it and see if it does what you want it to do. It's a really good way to get your hands on gear for cheap. Obviously, if you can borrow one, then that's, you know, even better, but for the most part, renting is probably a good idea. Just going into the camera store and playing with it is nice, but you're not really going to get the feel for it. You want to use it the way you use it, not look in the camera store and go, oh yeah, that focuses. Get out and use it, rent. Borrowlenses.com and lensrentals.com, those are my 2 favorite online rental places. One of these days I'm going to have to actually check this out. I always tell people, I think that one or maybe both of those have a code PhotoJoseph you would use to get something. I honestly don't know. I haven't been there in ages, but if you're going to rent from either one of those, just type into the code PhotoJoseph, see what happens. If nothing happens, don't worry about it. If it does, you might get a few points off and then bonus. But yeah, do that. Okay. Oh, more questions coming in. Yay. Jason Papazavelio says, how do you light interviews and what lens would you use? Oh, interesting question. There's no one way that I would light an interview. It just is going to completely depend on the situation. I could maybe use just one light, maybe just use window light, maybe use a classic 3-light setup, you know, where you've got, you know, your key, your main light, a fill light, and a backlight. That's a nice 3-light setup. Maybe you want to light the background, maybe you don't. There's no one way to do it. It just depends on the scenario. And also depends how many people. Am I interviewing one person on camera, or am I going to have 2 people on camera? When I did the interview with Ginger Johnson, the business business coach, a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we'll link to that up here. We'll check that video out. That was a lot of fun, actually. If you haven't seen it, check it out. That was lit with two main lights, but then the room was already quite bright, so it was really like big ambient light and then 2 fills, just one at her, one at me, big flat broad lights, trying to minimize shadows and just do a general flat light. I wasn't trying to do like dramatic funky lighting, so that was pretty straightforward. So I would call that not a true 2-light setup because there were ambient lights. At minimum a 3-light setup, more like a 5-light setup, just because there's a lot of light in the room already. But yeah, there's no hard and fast rule. And as far as the lens goes, again, it just depends on what you're doing, right? Do you want multiple people? Are you trying to get shallow depth of field? Do you just want everybody to be in focus, so if someone's moving around, they're not going to go out of focus? That's something to really consider, right? We get really fixated on this kind of cinematic look, You look at this scene right now that you're seeing on this camera. Let me go to the full wide shot. This is, it's shallow enough depth of field where the background is slightly out of focus, just enough to separate me. Would I like the background to be a bit more out of focus? Sure, it would look a bit more cinematic, look a bit nicer, but then I'd have to worry that if I stepped over here, moved around, that I would go out of focus. I don't want to have to be like, I'm here, I'm in focus, I'm out of focus, I'm in focus, I'm out of focus. That happens if you're shooting with really, really shallow depth of field. In fact, when you watch the snow video, you will see that we shot that with very shallow depth of field, and there are some shots where I'm not exactly in focus because it wasn't. So you really got to be careful. So it's not, having that super shallow depth of focus when you're shooting people who have a tendency to move is not always ideal. If you look at my GH5 training video, which, hey, what a brilliant idea. I can plug that real quick. If you haven't seen that before, gh5training.com, a complete training course, 5-hour-long training course on the GH5, which will be getting updated for the GH5S and for the GH5 version 2 as well. If you look at that video, and if you go to that website, go to gh5training.com, you can watch a couple of trailers and I think a couple of videos for free on there. You'll see the look. And there I have a very nice shallow depth of field look. Let me think now. Trying to think of distance. I was probably 10, 12 feet from the camera. The background, which is quite nicely soft, was 20 feet, 15 to 20 feet from me, I'm going to call it. And that was shot with a Nocticron. It wasn't quite wide open. I think it was shot at f1.4, maybe 1.8. So it was very shallow depth of field, but I had enough leeway that I could move around at my desk without going out of focus, but the background got really soft. It looks really, really nice, and that was shot with a Nocticron lens. At far enough distance where it's not like it was a tight headshot. It was still a table, kind of similar to this view, but with a long lens and much farther away, so it's a much more compressed view. But you can check that out there, and you can see what that looks like. But there's no one answer. Right? That's the short answer to your question is there is no short answer. How's that for wishy-washy? Okay. Lucas, here we go. Lucas Schur asks, should I use bracketing or HDR for real estate photography? Oh, that's a good question. Did I do a video, Ryan, did I do a video on HDR? I'm pretty sure I did a video on HDR real estate photography. We'll link to that up here. If there's nothing up here, that means I haven't done one and I will have to do it, but I'm pretty sure that I did. When I shoot real estate, I use the built-in HDR function on the camera, but I also, I almost always, if the lighting situation is a bit funky and complex, I will shoot a backup bracketed sequence so that I can do a HDR comp later if I have to. I'd rather use the built-in HDR shot because it takes me less time. So what I've done is when I'm shooting real estate, I have, you've got the C1, C2, C3 function controls, custom settings on your camera. Well, on your GH5 or G9 or the higher end cameras and the lower end ones, you have fewer custom settings, but you have them. I set one to my HDR presets, and I set another one to my bracketing presets. So basically, I'll put my camera on a tripod and go to, say, C1, take the picture, flip it to C2, take the picture again. And it's just automatically switches between those two settings. So I get both in minimum times. Because you don't want to be going, okay, now see, I want to go to bracketing, so I got to turn this off, turn that on, change that mode. Okay, shoot the bracketed shot. Now move. Okay, I'm going to go back to HDR. Okay, just go to the HDR boom, then change everything, go back to bracketed. You don't want to do that. Use the custom function modes, set it, click, 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 and it's a super awesome way to go. There you go. Serge says there's a lighter way of cleaning the sensor using a stream of air from a rubber bulb. Serge, thank you for saying that. Absolutely. Using an air, like one of the squeezy air things, not compressed air, because that can shoot out nasty stuff. Just the squeeze ball compressed air. Absolutely a great way to clean your sensor just to get dust off of it. If there's a little hair or something that's on there, you don't need to get out the swab. But if there's a spot on it from moisture or something that got in there, then you need to use the swab. But yeah, the compressed air, you're absolutely right. Also, these sensors are self-cleaning. They will vibrate on a kind of a micro scale. You can't even see it, but it does a little vibrating and hopefully knock some of the dust off. So that works too. Fresh New Tech says, do you recommend the 42.5 millimeter f1.7 lens? I want to use my GH5 for portraits. Would this lens be good for that? Does the GH5 hold its own as a portrait camera with a lens like that? Okay, so a few things. First of all, the 42.5 1.7 lens is your counterpart to the 42.5 1.2 Nocticron lens. The Nocticron is considerably, not considerably, it is sharper, it is faster, has shallower depth of field, and a lot more expensive. it's a beautiful lens. The Nocticron is a piece of art. It is absolutely gorgeous. The 42.5 f1.7 is a much lower price and still very capable lens. And if you're shooting wide open, it will give you quite a shallow depth of field. Not as shallow as the Nocticron, obviously, but it will still give you a quite shallow depth of field. One of the things to consider, and I have not done critical tests on that lens, so I can't speak to its edge-to-edge sharpness. If you want to look that sort of thing up, go to DxOMark.com, and they have all kinds of tests. I'm sure that lens is in there. Most lenses are their sharpest when they're stopped down a little bit. So if you think about that and you think, well, why would I want the Nocticron at 1.2? I'm never going to shoot that wide open. The depth of field is like this big when I'm close to a portrait. That's crazy. It's not necessarily about having that super crazy shallow depth of field all the time. It's about being able to stop the lens down a couple of stops and getting the lens at its sharpest position, and I'm still having shallow depth of field. When you're starting at 1.7 or 2.8 or f4, and then you still stop down to get a little extra sharpness, you end up getting less depth of field, and you're going, oh, well, hold on a second. Now I realize why I wanted that faster lens to start with. So something to consider. But on its own, that 42.5 f1.7 is a great lens. It's super tiny, super lightweight. It literally can fit it in your pocket. I shot an entire wedding, not professional. Actually, did I shoot my brother-in-law's wedding with that one? No, I shot my brother-in-law's wedding with the Nocticron, but I shot a friend's wedding where I wasn't the photographer, I was just shooting. I shot with the GX85 and that 42.5 f1.7 because I just wanted something super small and light, and literally was able to store the lens in my sport coat pocket when I wasn't using it. It's so tiny, and it looks great. So it's a very, very nice lens. As far as the camera, the GH5, I mean, as a portrait camera, it doesn't really, there's no like, oh, the GH5 is a great portrait camera. It's really the portrait lens. That camera is perfectly capable of shooting portraits or landscapes or real estate or just about anything else you want. So yes, it would be perfectly fine. Okay, I think, oh, okay, Skygate PEI says, I want to buy your GH5 training course, thank you, for when your GH5S arrives. Should I wait for you to make a course for this S, or is it similar enough to follow along? Okay, so here's what's happening with the S. As far as training, I don't know when I'm going to do this because my calendar is now completely blocked for the next month and a half, but the GH5S has additional features over what the GH5 has. So the GH5 training is 100% relevant to the GH5S. Except for things like stabilization chapter, that obviously wouldn't be. I am going to record an addendum to the GH5 training specifically for the GH5S. That will not be a free upgrade. That is going to be an add-on, and it'll be like a $20 add-on or something. I haven't made the price yet. I'll determine that after I actually make it and see how big it turns out to be. But that will be an addendum, so it's not going to be a whole separate course. So if you bought the GH5, you would want the GH5 training. If you bought the GH5S, you would want the GH5 training plus the GH5S addendum. So go ahead and get your GH5 training now, and you'll have all that. And then when the S training comes out, you can get that addendum as well. I'm sorry I can't promise a date on that right now. It's a project that's on the list, but I've got other things I have to do first. So hopefully that answers your question. Alrighty, there we go. That is that. I am going to cut it off there because I can hear my stomach rumbling. I need to get some food in here. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in today. That's fun. I love these AMAs. These are always a good enjoyment, good fun, blasty time. Get all kinds of fun information flying around. Friday's show, I don't have a card made. I think Friday's show is going to be about tethering. That was supposed to be today's show, but I bumped it because I didn't have time to prep for it because of the snow video. I'm going to go finish my snow video right now. Friday's show should be about tethering, hopefully. If not, it'll be something else. Next week, I'm here all week, and then I'm gone for 2.5 weeks. Family vacation time, but it's a working holiday. I've got some work to do on that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I'm not going to be doing the show during that time. I might do some live appearances from overseas, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, next week is the last solid week, and then I'm out of here for a little bit. So with that said, yeah, that's about it. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you for the contributions, for those that did the super chat. Remember, you've got the value for value, PhotoJoseph.com/support, if you feel like you took some value and you'd like to contribute back today. And other than that, I'm going to say, see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.